center. We don't quite know about that as yet, but we're going to try and ascertain that. But Qom, which is the spiritual center, that's the seat really of where the Ayatollahs really drive their power from. That's been targeted. Karaj and Kermanshah also targeted. So this has been confirmed now by Iran's Fars news agency. So we have that. Iran's supreme leader Ali Khamenei was not in Tehran during Israeli airstrikes. So that's a very important bit of information that is coming through. This is according to Reuters. And of course, now we know that there are visible signs of that strike, and you can see it on your screens, viewers. There is enough footage that is coming through from Iran, and of course, confirmation. Now, Iran has been struck, according to various sources, including Reuters, Russian TV, for example. And Russian TV is quoting Iran's state affiliate Fars news agency, saying that 3 explosions were heard in downtown Tehran. Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, says that Israel launched these preemptive attacks, as he called them, on Iran, so that the Iranians could get off their high horse. The quote exact is, Iran has repeatedly said diplomacy is the answer and not threatened an attack on Israel. And at this moment, of course, we are waiting word on exactly how the Iranians plan to sort of go out there and respond. So we can see escalations. It could happen, but as of now, we're not seeing any signs of that. Iraq has just closed its airspace. That's another big update that has come through, and this is Russia TV putting that out. Iran has also closed its airspace in different sectors, and that would be obvious because there is obviously now the prospect of some amount of Iranian retaliation. Let me go back to our studios for just a few moments and also bring into the picture Sanjay Suri and Aman Sharma, as well as Arun Dhata. Arun, what are the other updates that you're hearing? We're also going to bring in Sanjay in just a few moments. Yes.
That's right, Rahul. In fact, as we've been reporting this, that it's a joint attack from United States and from Israel. That's something which some of the international media outlets are reporting. And also, of course, the supreme commander of supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, was not there. Whether this attack could be to take him out, that's something which we'll have to know. But right now it is being reported from there that he wasn't there, though the attack was very close to his residence there. Let me quickly go back to Sanjay Suri here. Sanjay, of course, we're given to understand that as some reports are emerging from Iran, that thousands of Islamic Revolutionary Guard corps have been killed and wounded following these attacks. These are the reports that we are picking up from there. Anything that you can add on to that?
Well, I mean, we have this report suggesting thousands, and of course it would be too early to do a count for anyone there on the ground. It would suggest that the level of attack has been very severe and it has been massive. There would have been a number of IRGC centers that would have been targeted, and clearly there have been a lot of explosions there, and gauging from that and going by the level of staffing and presence at these centers, we have a fairly informed estimate, one would think, that it would be a very, very high death toll indeed. And this has been coming, that these are centers that would be targeted. Iran would have also seen this coming. Iran would have known that these are the prime targets of the US and Israel coming to fighting together and launching an operation like this together, that it would be Khamenei, it would be the IRGC, it would be military leaders, it would be the political leadership, and it would have taken a level of precaution. Whether that has been protective enough is far from certain. We do have clear indications that the attack on some of these centers has been massive, and this is just the start of it. There will be more to come, and a great deal more to come. And we're going to see the casualty toll mounting very rapidly within Iran. And the concern that everyone has, and not least will be the US and Israel, to minimize collateral damage and to prevent any fallout that is intended to or ends up attacking or killing civilians. So they certainly will take great care to protect civilians. So when we are looking at this high death toll, the expectation is that the concentration of the attack and the casualties would be among the IRGC and the armed forces and the forces close to the regime rather than the civilian population. The question then about the civilian population is how they respond, whether they see this as an attack on their country, whether they rally around, whether they use it, or a number of people use this as the trigger for a renewed revolt. This will be another area to watch out for, because there is great unrest within Iran. It is a divided society. Without doubt, there are also a number of people who, for their own reasons or their own interests, are close to the regime and supportive of it. So there is a split within Iranian society. How wide that split is something that we will see unfold as well. And this could really open up a new divide within Iran in ways as yet unforeseen. But it may well get a lot of the protesters back on and give them some sort of a renewed confidence to protest against the regime, as they see that it will be on its back foot now in the face of such an attack.
Yes, stay with us, Sanjay. We're getting some more breaking update in this story. Let's cut to that. All right, let's quickly cut across to Aman Sharma here. He's with us from the newsroom. Yes, Aman, what is the latest?
That is coming now from Iranian news agencies that 7 missiles have hit near the presidential palace as well as the supreme leader Khamenei's compound. That is how serious this attack is, that 7 missiles hit the area near the presidential palace as well as the supreme leader's Khamenei's compound. And what Al Jazeera is now reporting is that Iran will respond with crushing attacks. That is what is being quoted by Al Jazeera, quoting Iranian officials, that Iran will be responding to this particular attack by Israel and the US with a crushing response. So this could really escalate in the coming hours and days, because Iran has been hit very severely. Not just Tehran, but many other sites of Iran have been hit. It's a well-coordinated attack right in the morning. You know, it is also being said that Iran has been left surprised and shocked by an early morning attack. They've always been expecting that maybe it will be a night attack. But US and Israel have in a way surprised Iran, taken it completely, caught it sleeping, and bombed even the compound of its supreme leader today morning. And now Iran is vowing that it will be delivering a crushing response to these strikes. So in the hours to come could become very tense. Already, as Sanjay Suri is reporting from Israel, that already there is a high alert in Israel, because Israel is also expecting that Iran will respond to this. And these 7 missiles which have gone and hit Mr. Khamenei's compound as well, near his offices, we believe that he has been shifted to a safer place now, maybe outside Tehran, as per international agencies, what they are reporting. But this is becoming very, very serious, because now Iran is already saying that it's going to respond. What will be the scale of its response? What will be the terms of its response? How will it respond? Now remains to be seen, but clearly a big, big escalation coming up in the Middle East.
All right, stay with us, Aman. We also have former diplomat Prabhu Dayal and also strategic affairs expert Brahmachilani. Let me come to you first, Ambassador. How do you see this joint strike coming from Israel and United States on Iran, and that too very close to the residence of the supreme leader of Iran?
You know, this is a very dangerous escalation, and these attacks have been carried out with full preparation and full consolidation and coordination between the United States and Israel. Now, there was a talk of, some negotiations going on, etc. But that was a facade, because the distance between the positions of the United States on one side and Iran on the other was so big that there was never any likelihood of the talks yielding any result. And Trump was creating some sort of confusion by saying at times that, there are good results being achieved, and on the other hand saying, no, the Iranians are not agreeing and anything is possible, regime change, etc. So there was full preparation, and it was only a facade to carry out these negotiations. The fact is, both the Americans and the Israelis want a regime change. Now, I've served in Iran for 3 years. I know the city well. And these attacks have been carried out on civilian areas, and areas which are of great importance to the Tehran regime. And the message is clear that we want this regime out. Now, will Iran capitulate? I don't think so. So, for this reason, I'm afraid there is going to be an escalation. There is a possibility of attacks on the US military vessels which are deployed around Iran. And therefore, I am afraid that with one war taking place between Pakistan and Afghanistan, and now this huge escalation between the US and Israel on one side and Iran on the other, the entire region is going to be engulfed in a very dangerous situation.
Ambassador Dayal, stay with us. We also have Brahm Chilani, Strategic Affairs expert. Mr. Chilani, thank you so much for joining us here on CNN News 18. What is your initial assessment of these collaborative strikes that have taken place in Iran?
First is that they replicate the surprise element of last June when the Trump administration carried out the bombing of Iran's nuclear sites. The second element which stands out is that these strikes have occurred just hours after the Omani foreign minister announced, following the talks in Geneva, that Iran had agreed both to give up its nuclear ambitions permanently, and also to surrender its uranium stockpile. He went public. He's a key broker, has been a key mediator in the peace talks between the US and Iran from the very beginning, from the time they began in Oman. And the Omani foreign minister went public with these remarks because it was apparent to everyone that Trump will not accept yes from Iran, that having positioned his carrier groups to carry out strikes on Iran, that Trump will not accept even Iran's capitulation at the negotiating table. It was only a matter of time before he carried out these military strikes. It's also significant that these joint strikes by Israel and the US have occurred right after Modi's Israel visit. And I think striking Iran in the way they have struck was clearly an attempt to decapitate.
Yes. Stay with us, Mr. Chilani. I'll come back to you. Now we're getting some more update here. We're getting to learn from the reports that United States strikes against Iran are being carried out by air and sea. A US official told Reuters on this. So this is also a breaking update that we are getting that, and in fact, US President Donald Trump confirmed the attack on Iran, and in fact, this is something which is coming out right now, that the attacks were carried out by air and sea. This is what the US official is confirming to Reuters on this attack in Iran. So from both sides, air and sea, that's what the United States is planning. Let me quickly go back to Brahm Chilani here. Mr. Chilani, this is the breaking update that we are getting, which is being confirmed by US officials to Reuters, that the attacks being carried out by air and sea.
I think the most significant element is something that you're not highlighting, which is that it was an attempted decapitation strike on Iran. The attempt was to kill the Ayatollah Khomeini as well as the president of Iran. So it was an attempt to decapitate Iran's leadership, which is why certain targets were chosen. And whether that attempt has been successful or not, we will know, because Iran was obviously prepared or preparing for such strikes by the US and by Israel. Nobody expected Israel to join hands with the US from the outset. The expectation was that Israel would come in once Iran would retaliate. But here, to the surprise of everyone, to all the analysts who were looking at the possible war scenarios, Israel joined hands with the US from the word go. And the fact that these strikes have happened right after Modi's visit, just after Modi has returned home, is also very significant.
Yes, stay with us, Mr. Chilani. Let me go back to Ambassador Dayal here. Ambassador Dayal, What are those focal points on which Iran was not agreeing and United States was stressing? Because we have seen the most recent talk that happened on 26th that has failed, and that's the reason probably we are seeing these strikes that are taking place right now.
You know, Mr. Brahmacharani very correctly pointed out that the Omani foreign minister had given hopes by saying that peace is within reach and that Iran has agreed to no nuclear material stockpile. However, the message which came from Trump was very different. Trump said he was not thrilled with the manner in which the talks had gone, and he said that this is not a good sign at all. And he said, well, he has not taken a decision whether to attack the country, but that was only a facade. He was planning very, very closely with Israel to go ahead with these attacks. And
overseas
now that is precisely
and
what
could
is
soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces and no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our heroes in harm's way, and we trust that, with His help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or, in the alternative, face certain death. So, lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
All right, there you heard United States President Donald Trump confirming there that United States forces have conducted this operation in Iran. There, let's quickly go to Sanjay Suri here, who is in Israel right now. Sanjay, United States President Donald Trump confirming this, that United States forces have conducted this attack, and he also reiterated what he's been saying and now put the ball in the courts of Iran, saying that lay down your arms and you will be treated fairly.
Well, this is very clear message, a bold message that this is going to be a war to the finish. The US will not stop this operation together with Israel until there is regime change. So regime change certainly is the ultimate. The decapitation of the regime is the immediate aim. It is also the ultimate aim, and there will be no cessation of these hostilities short of that. That is the position of the US, and it is the position of Israel. The question now is that what Iran has that it can hit back with. Iran does have a very extensive and sophisticated enough missile arsenal, and whether these strikes have neutralized that to a considerable extent, and whether Iran is left with enough to hit back with, that is the immediate tactical military question. This seems to be an attack at two levels. First, to hit at the regime, Khamenei, the IRGC, and to hit them hard. The idea is that if the leadership were to disappear or vanish or become so weak that it ceases to carry any conviction or any force at all, then the operative fallout and the extension of that could well be that a lot within the IRGC choose not to fight, and Trump has given them both an invitation, a temptation, and a warning that they must surrender. So that if there were to be surrender in the face of this assault and the threat of more, then the missile arsenal of Iran could be politically neutralized to an extent. To the extent it is not. There are thousands of missiles in place, scattered around the country, and the military force and the military leaders of Iran will certainly need to use them. Now is the time to do it, and they will certainly want to hit back, whether they have the means to, or if there is a vacuum at the top, whether then they will have the wish to. This is now the question.
Just stay with us, Sanjay. We also have CNN News 18's Anand Narasimhan here. Anand will be, of course, taking it forward from here. Anand, United States President Donald Trump is just confirming that his forces have conducted these strikes.
Yes, it is. And Israel has already called it Operation Lion's Roar. Thank you for that, Arun. Professor Brahmachalani is also with us. We'll also go across to our other guests who are joining us on the broadcast. But viewers, we are breaking format to get you what has happened or what is currently happening in that region. Iran is under an all-out attack, even as the Israelis have mounted a massive string of cyber attacks trying to bring down critical Iranian systems. The American Navy is using its full might and force. Just an update that we will start with. The Embassy of India in Jordan has actually tweeted and said that in view of the prevailing regional situation, all Indian nationals and tourists in Jordan are advised to exercise utmost caution, stay safe, and follow advisories issued by local authorities diligently. All Indian tourists in Jordan are further advised to leave the country immediately before the operations of commercial flights get disrupted in case of any exigency. In fact, if you were to check flight radar, and we'll try and show you here from our news pit in a bit, that the entire airspace is clearing out. The moment Iran said that they were closing the airspace at least until Thursday next, and that entire region, and the huge assault across multiple locations in Iran by the American military. Trump is on an all-out aggressive mode. What he's saying is that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. To safeguard America is what he's saying, and its people and this region. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. We are going to decimate their navy, is what he's saying. They are a vicious group of hard, terrible people, and I'm quoting President Donald Trump here. Its menacing activities directly endanger the U.S., our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. Trump has further said that the U.S. attack on Iran could result in the deaths of U.S. personnel and cause casualties, saying that often happens in war. When he was asked of the repercussions, he said when you go into war, you have to gain losses, you have to be able to absorb a few losses, but it's for the greater good. Trump further saying, and I'm reading this out, we are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missiles. We are going to annihilate their navy. Just a short time ago, Trump has further said the military operation in Iran began. Our goals are to protect the American people and eliminating immediate threats from the Iranian regime. Terrible and malicious people. Iran must not have nuclear weapons. Never. This regime will learn that it must not challenge American military power. And then Trump has told the IRGC to lay down their arms, saying they will
to be used. But what happens if there is a strike of an American airbase in Saudi Arabia? So that doesn't leave any scope for Saudi Arabia to press that statement further. So I don't think the Gulf countries are going to openly support the Americans, but internally, yes, there would be an agreement to the Americans, because after all, their interests lie with Americans and not with the Iranians.
Well, so, even as we speak, air sirens have gone off not just in Israel and various parts of central Israel, but also Jordan and Bahrain as well. So more nations are now being alert. They are red alert, especially around, because they are also trying to use their intelligence and game what Iran will try and do, because Iran will have to show a certain amount of retaliation. We'll try and see if we have Sanjay Suri live. He was just going across. The alerts and sirens have been sounded even where he is joining us, even though he remains outdoors. The Israelis are calm, but their belief is they don't want this attack on Israel, but they believe that out of this, Israel will come stronger than ever. You're not going to be able to wipe out Israel. And Benjamin Netanyahu has invoked this very sentiment, saying the regime that shouted death to Israel, it's time to end that regime. This regime change, 47 years they've lasted. They're trying to tell the IRGC and the security, that's the Buzz militia, etc., Ambassador Chakrabarti, to try and break away from this regime. Let's bring about a change in Iran. And what Benjamin Netanyahu has tried to do, has tried to appeal beyond the Persians. He said the Baloch, the other ethnicities, the Kurds, all of the others who've been persecuted under the Khomeini regime should come together. Now, is that going to be possible? If this lasts over the next 5-6 days, this barrage from the Americans, contrary to the last time when the Israelis led the attack, the Americans waded in only with the B-52s. If this barrage is there over the next few days by the Americans, huge amount of pounding, especially of the nuclear and the ballistic missile sites, and some critical installations like the IRGC headquarters, Bach militia headquarters, will the regime break amid cyber attacks? And of course, perhaps the street violence will also begin now. That's also been queued up by Shahraza Palvi.
Yes, in the sense that all these things will impact heavily on the regime. There's no doubt about it. And I think Mossad and CIA would have prepared the plan for getting people onto the streets, maybe destroying public property or public installations, and generally bringing, kind of governance to a halt. You mentioned the Kurds and then there are the Baloches also. And there are others also, Armenians and others.
Yes, Baloch
who
also.
might think that this is a good time, or they may have been mobilized or energized by the Mossad and CIA to do that. And don't forget, the Baloch people live on the border with Pakistan, and in Balochistan, in Pakistan, there's a raging insurgency and freedom fight going on already. Now, I don't know whether Pakistan will get involved from that side, because the Baloch, because Iranians have always blamed the Pakistanis for the Baloch insurgency.
Ambassador, just interrupting you, we got a latest, there's a latest update. Explosions have been heard in Bahrain's capital, Manama, and public has been told to take shelter. Now, does this now open up the dimension? It's no longer Israel and Iran. Bahrain comes into the picture. If there's something that happens in Jordan, Jordan will have to take action. Of course, that airspace is all Jordanian airspace over which the Jordanian skies that these missiles will be traveling to Israel and Iran. Yes, please.
The Jordanians will cooperate. They've already said they will cooperate because they are a very firm ally of the US and Israel. Whereas Bahrain and other Gulf countries there would be certainly getting into a defensive mode, telling their
Another update. Iranian missile has been downed over Qatar. Al Arabia is reporting, citing Qatari media. So see Qatar also.
So
Sorry, I'm interrupting you. This is just happening live, so please go ahead.
Yeah, it's quite possible now that it has started. You see, Al Ubaid Air Base in Qatar is the largest air base in this whole region. And I think earlier also, by the way, they had targeted this base. But I think this is going to happen, and I think other American bases will come under attack, apart from Israeli bases within Israel and other installations. So we are actually seeing an escalation here, which was expected. And I think preparations have been made for this kind of escalation. So I think, but then again, I said there will be, I do not know how long the Iranians will be willing to carry on this fight, because they would be outgunned by the combination of all these countries. And what could happen is that once the air bases in the Gulf countries are attacked, then the Gulf countries would normally then turn against Iran as well, though not openly, but certainly will be more supportive of the American and Israeli actions. So that's the kind of scenario that is unfolding, and I do hope that things can. I don't see any hope now of things halting till this whole thing comes to some kind of conclusion, whether it is regime change or whether
I think
massive destruction and and then surrenders. I don't see Iran surrendering. That is something I don't see.
The Americans have decided regime change is the ultimate, and Iran cannot have nuclear weapons at all. The Israelis have said the same thing, regime change, and Iran cannot have nuclear weapons. UAE has partially and temporarily closed airspace. Sanjay Suri is live with us, even as air raid sirens have been heard in Jerusalem, Beersheba, and Dimona. Yes, Sanjay.
Yes, Anand, just to share with you, I don't know if you can see this very well. This is the kind of alert that has come on just about every phone right across Israel. I'm here in Tel Aviv. We've had the siren going off, and before that we had a pre-alert to the alert. So
we can see it.
So this is now war underway, which is not to say that Israelis are panicking all over the place. People do have some degree of faith in the air defense systems of Israel and the US, and certainly of the two combined. As we know, the Gerald Ford has been stationed very close to Israel, and that is intended to boost Israel's air defense systems. And there was a reason to worry, and that was in the last war in June of last year. That's when a number of Iranian missiles did get through. And so air defenses here have been strengthened by Israel itself and by the positioning of the Gerald R. Ford very close to Israel. So there is a good deal of protection in place, and at the moment there are some people out and about. You can see a few stragglers here and there walking around as if it's any other day without any reason for concern or going into a shelter, but a number of people have taken shelter right behind here and in the buildings just to my left. So people take their own view, but
right.
We are in the middle of high alert. We are in the middle of an alert that missiles are, as we speak, on their way here, and Israelis are taking it rather coolly.
Yes, they are. In fact, they are singing, praying inside the shelters. We'll play out that video with the audio in a bit, Sanjay, and come back to you. Tel Aviv bunkers. Qatar has intercepted 2 Iranian missiles as per a Qatari official. NetBlock says network data show Iran is now in the midst of a near total internet blackout. Let's just play out that video first. Yeah.
יהוד אחד, יהוד שני, יהוד שלישי, ומאחורי הבניינים שם יש שיר. אני נפל שם. יהוד אחד, יהוד יהוד שני, יהוד שלישי, ומאחורי הבניינים שם יש שישה. היה לי נכון שם. יהוד אחד, יהוד שני, יהוד שלישי, ומאחורי הבניינים שם יש שישה. היה לי נכון שם.
Well, so they are taking it quite spiritedly. Sanjay, you were speaking to some residents who seemed quite okay some time back when the calls came. But what are the common Israelis saying? Do they believe they need to finish this off? Do they believe the regime needs to go? Do they agree with Bibi Netanyahu?
Well, yes, I mean, there are divisions, political divisions within Israel, of course. It's a very sort of energetic and buzzing democracy. But on this, people are one. There is no difference of opinion that anyone can see over dealing with Iran. And this is a matter really that goes beyond politics. This is existential. It is the nuclear program of Iran that's not an immediate threat to the U.S. The ballistic missiles are not a threat to the U.S. It's Israel that is in the line of fire. And Israel has been hit by ballistic missiles, suffered serious damage. 28 Israelis were killed last year in Iranian missile attacks, and hundreds were injured. So Israel has had a taste of Iranian war aggression, as of course Iran is having a taste of Israeli aggression to a far, far greater extent right now as we speak. But here within Israel, people seem to be quite unified and quite determined that they must prevail. There is a curious factor here, Anand, when we look at Israeli response on the street. Consider the laws in Israel. Every Jewish Israeli has compulsorily to be trained in the army. Consider that Israel has a population of about 6 million Jewish people above the age of 18, which means that just about every adult is trained in war. They are used to battleground situations. They have been trained for this, and they have been deployed. And this is over a period of several years. So when we are thinking of the civilian population of Israel, we are in effect actually speaking of a military population. These are all military people. So they are not likely to get scared in a hurry.
Right. We've just got, I'm going to hand it to Akanksha. Akanksha, pictures coming through from Bahrain that the US base, Al Udeid, the air base there has been targeted. Al Jufair base in Bahrain has been targeted. It houses a US naval base, and there's a missile that's landed. I'm going to hand it over to you for now. Take it away, please.
So as Anand was highlighting, that it is now going to be the US bases in the Middle East which will be bearing the brunt of it. 9 US bases is what we are looking at. Bahrain, Qatar, Iraq, many of them in fact are housing. But apart from these countries that you're talking about in the Middle East, you're also looking at those places which are housing NATO bases. You have an Air Force base in Turkey. Will Turkey also get involved? You have Djibouti, which is very close to the Horn of Africa. All of those bases are going to be playing a very critical role. Those visuals, in fact, coming in, as you can see, there's been an attack on Bahrain as well. UAE, as we speak, has shut its airspace. That is another critical airbase of the United States. Let me quickly take this forward with Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, who continues to stay with us. Ambassador, this is bound to have a snowball effect now, as we can see. It's already playing out today itself.
I think we are actually seeing live the escalation. But I don't know how far this escalation will go. Does Iran have the capacity to pierce the air defense systems of these American air bases? And the Americans would have prepared for all this. So I don't think, as you said, two missiles have already been intercepted and destroyed. So how many more does Iran have to throw at all these sites? And there are many sites, American sites. So there are a lot of ifs and buts here. But on a personal note, I can imagine the situation, because I lived in a house in Tel Aviv when I was there, which had a bomb shelter. And those were the days when Saddam Hussein was threatening to attack Israel with chemical warheads. So I remember we were all told to, we were provided actually with gas masks and told to equip our bomb shelters and others, which were gas proof actually. So I still remember. So I can imagine what the people in Israel are feeling. And this is something familiar in the sense that, of course, there were no attacks. But today, I think the Israelis are a very resilient and a hardened lot. And, they are used to all this fighting. If they were not resilient, they wouldn't have lasted for so many years as a free country, given the kind of hostility they have faced in their region. And of course, Iran remains the last bastion of this hostility because Iran's official policy is that they do not recognize Israel and they would like to wipe out Israel from the map of the earth. That's their policy.
Right. I want to quickly bring in Sanjay. Sanjay, Ambassador has just now highlighted what a critical point he's made is that this has happened far too many times. We've heard this happen in 2001 in Kabul, in 2003 as well, when Iraq was being invaded. And there's the similar playbook being followed that we must prevent a future catastrophe. There's an evil regime which is being fought. And what's extremely ironical is that the current US president arrived on the promise that he's going to put an end to US interventionism in the Middle East. That certainly has been one U-turn we've seen happen in the second time around now that he's come back to the White House. Do you think that Iran is going to be that last bastion, as Ambassador also highlighted?
Well, last bastion is hard to say. We've had claims repeated a number of times, needless to say, from President Trump that he has stopped 8 wars. There will have to be a count on how many he has started as well. And who can say with any confidence that this will be the last? This is just a little more than a year into his presidency. But this is something that has been building up for some time. And we are seeing really now the inevitable here, that whole build-up from the U.S. The Abraham Lincoln was not sent just to be called back, nor the Gerald Ford now, which is positioned very close to Israel to aid in its defense. This is now a situation that really is going to go to the finish. This is not something that can be compromised upon really by either. This is going to be the end of the regime, or it's going to be the end of the US-Israeli intervention. I think we can take a fair guess which of those two scenarios is more likely. But the clear aim and the first aim of the US, and this President Trump spelled out quite clearly, is to, short of that military erasure, to provoke a revolt within the IRGC, within the Iranian government, and to provoke a rebellion or encourage a rebellion among the people, so that in the face of this assault, people rise within Iran and it begins to crack from within. If that can happen by not just the show of force, but by the use of force to some limited extent, and if this were to provoke a rebellion within the government and from outside the government, from the people, then this would be the relative shortcut that the US certainly would look for, that President Trump would look for. That is not
in fact,
I
just want to take our viewers through those visuals that we are getting in. There's an attack on Bahrain also, but that missile was intercepted. In fact, information coming in that Qatar has also intercepted 2 Iranian missiles as per an official. This is information that's still trickling in. How long will this last is still unknown. But remember, right now, as we speak, the United States has amassed the largest invasion force in the Middle East. This is the largest ever since the Iraq war that was observed. I want to quickly bring in Ambassador Pinakranjan Chakrabarti, who continues to stay with us. Ambassador, I want to bring you in on the point about ending US interventionism in the Middle East. That was a promise that was made. Remember, the Democrats have been asking the Trump administration why they have been so opaque, especially when it comes to their policy towards Middle East. In fact, Chuck Schumer, the Senate minority leader, also went on to accuse Donald Trump of hiding behind the cover of war, because this is a year which is very critical to the Republicans, as we all know, especially the fact that they will be headed into midterms.
Well, I think what President Trump is seeking is, of course, with an eye on the midterm elections. The war is, by the way, in one section of the Americans, the war is popular because they like this war, because they are America is flexing its muscle, showing that it is still a global hegemon and it can do anything it likes in wherever it wants across the planet. We've seen Venezuela. We've seen now, in fact, Mr. Trump is saying that the USA might attempt a friendly takeover of Cuba. This is the latest that we have heard. Now, this is the kind of thing, although he talks of stopping wars and his aspiration for a Nobel Prize has not ended. But then, geopolitics is not that simple. Stopping wars is not that simple. Afghanistan and Pakistan are also at each other's throats. So I don't think that is geopolitics will always trump those political rhetoric that we hear from time to time. And Israel is a different kettle of fish. I mean, I think Israel and the US are probably the closest allies in the world. And they have a different equation. They have a different kind of an understanding. So I don't think that, and since both of them want to eliminate Iran's regime and the nuclear facilities and missile facilities, so they have naturally cooperated. And I think, as you can see, the first attacks on Iran were launched from Israel and not from any aircraft carrier.
And since you speak of Israel, let me quickly bring in Sanjay, who is very much in Israel. In fact, he's been there ever since Prime Minister paid that visit. And that's why, Sanjay, everybody here on the MEA group is already asking the question, did the Israeli side share any information with the Indian side with regards to the attack being in the final stages of planning? I guess we'll never know. But what was the sense that you were gathering when you arrived in Israel?
Well, as you point out, this is not something that's likely to be known whether Netanyahu briefed Prime Minister Modi, unless at some stage either Netanyahu or the Prime Minister or the top ministers from either country comes up with any such information. But clearly it was a visit that came just before this. Netanyahu would certainly have known that this is coming, given the preparations and given the extensive networking with the US allies of Israel, to see that this is in place. So all of this would have been in place when the Indian PM visited. The fact is that we have heard from the MEA officials that Mr. Modi did try to prevail upon Mr. Netanyahu to say that the peaceful solution is always the best one. That would have been polite talk, certainly heard politely, responded to politely, and all the time Netanyahu was preparing for this war. Whether that was also known to Prime Minister Modi is something that's awaited. Certainly that is not something that has been shared publicly or even privately with very many so far.
All right, as we speak, in fact, an official statement coming in from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Iran. This is what the official statement, in fact, it's a detailed statement that's coming in. But just to give our viewers a quick gist of what it says that the Iranian nation will respond decisively and the aggressors will regret their criminal act. Now, let me quickly go back to Ambassador Pinak Chakrabarti as well. Ambassador, do you think that this is now an all-out war? And in terms of referring to Prime Minister's recent visit to Israel, for a country which has always prided itself in its strategic autonomy, does it leave India in a very tricky position at the moment?
No, I don't think so. I think India-Israel relations have gone over many, many years. Ever since we opened our mission there, diplomatic mission in 1992, and I was there from 95 to 99, and I have seen what kind of collaborations that started, and it has gone much beyond that now. So I think India-Israel relations are quite solid. The speculation about whether Prime Minister Netanyahu would have told Prime Minister Modi that yes, we are planning to attack, I don't think any country does that. But if they would have discussed the situation, there was no doubt about it. That Iran situation would have been discussed, and Prime Minister Netanyahu would have said very clearly that, this is very difficult for us, and we have to deal with Iran, etc. But of course, he wouldn't tell that this is the date and time on which we will launch all the strikes. And India would have maintained its stock position that try and avoid military conflict. You are already talking to the Iranians in Geneva, sort it out there across the table. That's been the stock Indian sort of position for a long time. So I don't think that we can speculate very much beyond this.
Okay. So I want to quickly refer to the detailed statement which we have and maybe bring in both of you over here. It says that our sacred homeland and beloved nation, Iran, ancient civilization building, has once again been subjected to a cowardly military aggression by the US and Zionist regime. This morning on the threshold of Nowruz, on the 10th day of the holy month of Ramadan, the United States and the Zionist regime flagrantly violated Iran's territorial integrity and national sovereignty and targeted a number of objectives and defensive infrastructure as well as non-military facilities in various cities of our country. The renewed military aggression by the US and the Zionist regime against Iran has taken place under circumstances in which Iran and the US were engaged in a diplomatic process. This is the key critical aspect. Sanjay, weigh in on that. Is this an indication that Iran feels extremely violated, also betrayed in terms, because the diplomatic process, as they have referred to, was very much on in Geneva? Is this also indicating a complete breakdown, a complete collapse of the ongoing diplomatic process in Geneva?
Most certainly, there could be no convincing break of a diplomatic process than the launch of war. We had this threat hanging over the talks for some time now, and we heard from the Omanian foreign minister, who has been playing mediator here, and his report on this situation was that progress has been made and that Iran is prepared to make some concessions on the nuclear front, which is to stay an undertaking not to stockpile its enriched uranium, and that it will not be enriched beyond an agreed level. Of course, we have an IAEA report saying that that level has been breached already. But we do have a statement from Oman that has been playing mediator, saying that the process was underway. Talks had been planned for next week, tentatively in Vienna and tentatively for Friday. Then also we had the diplomatic process continuing in a sense also between the US and Israel. We had a visit by Secretary of State Rubio planned for Israel on Monday. It's not clear whether that will take place and whether that will take place with a renewed agenda given the new situation. It's unlikely that it will, also for simple reasons of airspace closure and safety. So the diplomatic process is now out the window. This is now all-out war, and the attempt now will be from the US and from Israel certainly to stop short of none of their three aims, one being regime change, the other nuclear disarmament, and the third an end to Iran's missile capacity, particularly ballistic missile capacity.
Ambassador Chakrabarti, the statement also says, history bears witness that Iranians have never submitted to the aggression of foreign powers, and this time as well the Iranian nation will respond decisively and the aggressors will regret their criminal act. You mentioned Venezuela. I also want to bring in Afghanistan and Syria. All of these countries, can there even be a comparison drawn to these countries, or Iran is going to be a far more intimidating sort of adversary that the United States is looking at, given the clout it has and the kind of nuclear power that it wields at the moment?
No, Iran is certainly in a different category. It's a much larger country with a great deal of, patriotic fervor, a civilizational past, which is ancient. Afghanistan is a much smaller country, but even there, the Americans had to run away because they couldn't manage. So I don't think there will be boots on the ground here and hence there are a lot of ifs and buts about regime change. I mean, will the Iranian people will rise up as one? Unlikely, but there will be revolt, there will be unhappiness. I think they are banking on the fact that the Iranian people have suffered a lot under the sanctions, and the economy is really in very bad shape, and people are, smarting from the economic impact of the sanctions, and now the war will create further problems. So I think the hope is that the Iranian people will rise up and somehow overthrow the regime. I don't know whether that will happen because
Yes,
the
stay with
Iranian.
me, Ambassador. I don't know if you can watch the live visuals that are trickling in right now. These are the latest visuals we are bringing for our viewers from Tehran, where we can see the aftermath of that missile strike. Completely decimated that entire location. Remember, in Tehran, this was close to the offices of Khamenei, and what we also, you can see the debris now. It's been reduced to a heap of rubble, and as we all know, this is just one location in Iran which has been targeted. Isfahan, Natanz, there are other locations as well in Iran which have been targeted, along with a host of other countries where we all know there are US troops as well. So US bases in Middle East now are on the radar of Iran as we speak. Ambassador, back to you. Please finish your point.
Simply making was that it's uncertain. I do not know. I do not have intelligence from within Iran as to what is the mood of the people, but I can only, rationalize some of the events that have taken place, and that tells me that that the Iranian people, are they ripe for a revolt? Is that the assessment of the Americans? CIA, Mossad, and Israelis. So I don't know. I mean, if that happens, then of course they will achieve their goal of regime change. And then what happens? Do you bring in the son of the earlier Shah of Iran? Is he popular? Can he manage? But then if you plant somebody from outside and protect that regime by force, which Israel and America may want to do, so that their own people are in power there, and totally, disarm, nuclear disarmament, destroy all their nuclear facilities and not go down that route at all, and then destroy all the missile facilities, etc. But I don't know whether that will happen.
No, that is true, because Reza Pahlavi lacks that grassroots connect, as has been highlighted by several Iranians that we've been speaking to. At the most, he still has managed to form that connect with the urban Iranians, but the ones in the hinterland still do not really associate much with him. Sanjay, news also trickling in that Yemen's Iranian-backed Houthi militants have now vowed to resume attacks on shipping route in the Red Sea corridor. This is bound to have a domino effect, as are the announcements now being made. What is the kind of situation we are looking at now, whether it is the Strait of Hormuz or this shipping corridor in the Red Sea?
Well, this has been the great threat from Iran, that is the economic threat, that if they were to block the Strait of Hormuz even for some time, that will have a very strong knock-on effect on oil prices, which, as we know, are very sensitive to the world situation, and particularly to passage of oil through that strait. About 20% of the world's oil supply passes through that strait, and Iran has positioned itself to attack shipping or to restrict it in that strait. And this then again becomes a challenge of timing, how far the Iranian Navy or its Air Force or its missiles can target these ships effectively. Certainly, the US and Israel will be out to protect shipping and see that any blockage here does not last very long. They do have great firepower. We've seen what that can be like already. But this will be a critical economic artery that will need to be protected, because if that is hurt, then the economy is hurt, and that again has knock-on political effects. If people run into shortages, price rises, the war becomes suddenly very unpopular, even at a distance, and even at such a distance as the US. Of course, within the US, this will be an unpopular war for many reasons. We have seen signs of that. But here now the question is the economic fallout of this, and these are just the first few hours. We've seen the decision, the outcome on that fallout will depend upon the resilience of Iran's military capacity.
An advisory being issued, in fact, by the Indian embassy in Qatar as we speak. They've, in fact, just now sent out a word saying everyone's requested to follow the emergency alert by local authorities in the interest of public safety. Everyone is urged to stay away from the vicinity of military sites and stay inside buildings, whether in homes or elsewhere, and not to go out or move except for the utmost necessity to avoid exposure to any risks. Ambassador Chakrabarti, the situation remains on high alert. Clearly, Middle East on the tenterhooks.
Absolutely, and I think we'll have to watch it minute to minute to see what happens next. But it's not going to stop very soon, that's for sure. And I think this will go on for quite some time. How long, very difficult to predict. It depends on the resilience of the Iranian regime, how long they can fight. So those are some of the constraints on them, because their supply lines, I do not know how good they are, because now they will be all under pressure. The internet is not working, communication will not work. So Iran is under real pressure now, and so they will have to really their backs are to the wall, but they will fight. I mean, there's no way Iran is going to surrender.
All right, stay with me, Ambassador and Sanjay, both, because we're getting in some more breaking inputs. In fact, Israeli officials have confirmed that they have indications of hits on significant figures in the Iranian leadership. This, as the chatter, in fact, grows louder about the whereabouts of Khomeini. Many are saying that he's already hidden in a bunker. But the Israeli officials, the IDF, going on official record to confirm that they have indications to establish the fact that significant figures in the Iranian leadership have been hit. Let me quickly take this forward with Sanjay. Yes, Sanjay, what more can you tell us? All right, we're also getting in reactions from Israel as we speak, because remember, evacuation is also currently on. An Indian student in Israel has also spoken out. I'll quickly play that reaction out for you.
Hi everyone, I'm an Indian student and currently I'm in Tehran. The situation here feels really grateful that the government of India and the Ministry of External Affairs are in discussion for our safety. But in the times like these, speed matters a lot. I'm not even able to say these things because the airstrikes are happening and it's getting really worse for us. We just request for the quicker and clear evacuation as soon as possible. Please do not wait for the situation to get worse. Just help us. Just get us out of here as soon as possible.
So that was an Indian student stuck in Tehran, actually. Let me quickly take that forward with Sanjay, who continues to stay. Extremely gut-wrenching to hear those students appealing for help, given that this was an attack which was on expected lines. Sanjay, perhaps the government could have ensured a timely evacuation?
Yes, most certainly, because this was coming. And meanwhile, there is some reason for concern here as well. I've just received an alert here. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It says rocket and missile fire in your area and get to a shelter within 1.5 minutes. We've just, this minute, in the last few seconds, had this alert. So there is some cause for concern here. But of course, at the moment, it's Iran that's taking the brunt of these attacks. And students and others in Iran certainly would be very concerned. We've heard that very touching appeal a minute back that you played out. And there will be questions asked whether more could have been done to get people out of Tehran, because that was always going to be first in the firing line and get the worst of it. And there is a danger there, but there is a good deal of missile fire now from Iran aimed at Israel. A lot of these missiles are underway as we speak. So there is unrest to varying extents across this whole region. Of course, there is no place that's more alarming to be in at the moment than Tehran.
Sanjay, going to request you to kindly take, cover, because there seems to be an alert issued in that area where Sanjay is currently stationed right now. Situation currently quickly blowing out of control. Let's quickly go across to Iranian activist Eli Jamali, who's joining us live from the United States. Eli, we've connected earlier as well. And I remember in the last conversation we had, you were urging the US for an intervention. Do you see this as the beginning of that intervention, and do you see this as an advent for external powers now to be coming and taking over Iran?
Well, good morning, actually from London at the moment.
All
We're
right.
still active
All
in
right.
London, but
Okay.
New York is next week. So what's happening in Iran at the moment is an unfolding of a rescue mission of 90 million people all at once. Of course, it's going to be full of noise. Of course, it's going to be full of bombs. And unfortunately, Iranian people have been waiting for bombs to fall on Iran under a regime that has been killing and targeting people, even in the hospitals over the past 2 months. The death toll in Iran at the hands of this regime has been so much higher than any modern war over long periods of time in the space of 48 hours. The current rescue mission carried out by the Israelis and the American high forces, an incredible army, is a beacon of hope for the Iranian people. The videos coming out of Iran right now, I mean, my heart absolutely goes out to all of the Iranian people who do not have shelter. I mean, this regime has brought in a war without sheltering any Iranians. I mean, they have gone and embedded themselves even in civilian areas of the cities, biggest, most populated cities. And my heart goes out to the lovely Indian student stuck in Tehran who's pleading to the Indian government to help her and rescue her out of that war zone at the moment. But what I wonder is, why was she not rescued during the last 2 months when the most horrific attacks on Iranian people were happening? She was at risk then. She is at risk now. And I pray that she, like all the Iranians who are going to be free soon, are free of this dangers that is facing them. But my heart goes to Iranian people who don't have anywhere to go at the moment in these days. There are the amount of despair and poverty this regime has caused on Iranian people, and the lack of resources on times like this is one of the things that is quite frightening. And like I said, there is no shelters in place for Iranian people other than their homes. So I am reassured with the statement that President Donald Trump made earlier today in White House. The White House released a statement that he encouraged Iranian people to stay at home because they are not the targets. They are obviously surgically targeting IRGC and regime forces and regime members who are actively part of the oppression of Iranian people. Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi also sent a message to the Iranian people reassuring them that this rescue mission is not a war on Iran, and it's a waging act against a terrorist regime that has held Iranian people at gunpoint for the past 47 years, and specifically for the past 2 months. So hopefully this is the beginning of an end for this regime, officially and once and for all.
Right. There's also news that is just coming in. The situation, as we were reporting, is quite tense, and news that is just coming in. Iran's Supreme National Security Council, the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran, has already made arrangements to meet all societal needs, and there is no concern regarding the supply of essential goods. Schools and universities will remain closed until further notice. Banks will continue providing service to the noble people of Iran. Government offices will operate at 50% capacity for the time being. So that's the news that is coming in, the official word that is now coming in from Iran about the steps that are being taken. The Iranian people being assured by Iran's Supreme National Security Council that as far as essentials are concerned, Iran is well equipped and it has made arrangements for that. As far as schools and colleges and universities go, they will remain shut. Workforce at 50%, banks will continue providing services. This is the month of Ramzan that we are talking about, and there's a lot of concern. But this is the news that we have, Sanjay. So the people of Iran being assured by the government of the day.
Go by what officials are saying to, of course, mainstream media. So, Sanjay.
You know, Rahul, it is very clear that Israel and to the extent that US is on board for this immediate assault as well, would be very particular about not targeting civilian areas in Iran. Civilians in Iran could feed a revolt against the regime itself. So this is a predictable message of reassurance. How much weight it carries, we do not know as of now. We do not know the extent of damage that will be caused over what period of time. Above all, the question whether people begin to crack from within, whether there will be cracks within the government system, within the IRGC, we have seen some reports that there has been an element of disaffection even within the IRGC. This is the testing time now. This is when we will know if and to what extent that may be true at all. Also, there is a question of how much supplies are available with the government. Iran has been hit and hurt with sanctions for a long time now. There is not a great deal of stockpile. There's not a great deal of resilience within the system to keep people supplied. If this were to drag on, and if really Iran puts up a fight, this will drag on for a bit, without doubt. So there is a question of time frame here. There's a question of what there is people can be supplied with. These are early hours we are in, and the assurance is, well, 50% this, 50% work that. This may not last long if the matters, as they're developing, get out of hand and go the way they're going.
And the indications are that this could just be the beginning. I mean, the war could be prolonged, even though Iranian government is assuring Iran's population that we have stocked enough. But how much is enough if this war is going to drag on? Indications from the United States and from Israel that this is not a one-off strike that has happened.
Well, enough is just a word. It's not a number. It's not a quantity. And the question is how much the Iranian government has. It's not likely that there is a lot, because there have been shortages, and these are shortages that have provoked the protests that we saw. It's not likely that in an effort to calm the protests, it would have held on to masses of food and equipment and supplies to people rather than offer it to them. The reports from Iran have been that the government has been offering food to people, offering support to people to try and calm them down, people later at some stage.
And what is the indication that is available at this stage about the kind of damage already inflicted? Even though Iran is putting up a brave face, indications from the other side seems to be that some of their top leadership and top military installations could have already faced the brunt of the strike that has happened.
Well, that is already happening. I don't know if even there's an if about that. Certainly, Iran has been hit very hard. And if there is an if here, it is that we really don't know yet the full extent of this, because it's just happening. And this is a very, very massive attack, as it would be. Having decided to go for it, it's not likely that the US will hold back or Israel will hold back. They would have predetermined targets. They would have had a plan to attack these targets, figured out the means to do so, the timing, what, where, when, and they're going at it. This is not something that is going to soften in a hurry, and in fact, it will be in the interests of the US and of Israel to hit early, to hit very hard, in order, if their intention is to try and avert too much damage, in order to provoke a revolt, both within the government, within the IRGC, within other political circles within government, and also to try and encourage protest from people. And this is not an if either. President Trump has said so much. He has said that IRGC should revolt, either they should surrender or they will die. He has asked people to come out and protest against the regime. So he's trying clearly to encourage people to go against their own government, so that the third ally after the US and Israel would be the very people of Iran and people who are disaffected within the government. That is the hope, and if that were to happen, that would be perhaps the least disastrous of the outcomes in terms of human lives and loss and damage. At the moment, we haven't seen that, but again, this is a bit early to say if that will happen at all and when that might happen.
Any indication, Sanjay, third ally as you call them, is there anything that the Israeli authorities or the American authorities are even indicating about how this third ally is really responding to the situation inside Iran?
Well, the response time is too short as of now. The areas in Tehran have just been hit. And IRGC is support which has been targeted foremost, as it would be. There has been a lot of damage, going by the reports we've received so far, and a loss of lives, and this is a considerable loss of lives. In the face of that, what the rest of IRGC will do is what we are waiting to see, because this is a testing time for them. If this revolt is to come, it will have to come soon. If not, and if they hold on, if IRGC stays together as a force, they decide to fight it out, they do not move against their regime, it's very difficult to see that people, unarmed people on the streets, will be able to force the regime out. If the regime has to crack in a hurry, and if that collapse were to be provoked or induced from within, that would have to be primarily the IRGC that will have to do it, and the police and their militia, the Basij militia and their other armed groups and forces in that area. It is they who will have to rise against the regime to bring about an early downfall. It will be that disciplined force that will have to start cracking. And certainly they would have anticipated this. They would have had a leadership in place predicting that this would be the aim, to try and also then to toughen people and to withstand these pressures. So all these pressures, one way and the other, are playing out currently.
And once again, Sanjay, to go back to that assurance that has come in from the Iranian authorities there, the assurance that has come in about supplies being adequate, the Iran Supreme National Security Council has given that assurance that the government of Islamic Republic of Iran has made arrangements to meet all societal needs. Now, once again, Sanjay, this is the month of Ramzan that we are talking about. In this holy month, for such a strike to happen, if you compare how Iran responded last time around, and they were expecting this kind of a strike. So do you think they would have prepared enough? Once again, like you said, the word enough is just a figure, a way of saying it. Just doesn't know what quantity, what is it that we are talking about in terms of days or week. So when this statement is made, when this assurance is made, put it into perspective in terms of how Iran responded the last time.
Well, if there was enough, the Iranian government would have seen that people have enough, and that would have blunted the protests that took place. The protests that took place came because the value of the rial really collapsed, and the value of the rial collapsed because importers had to pay a very high price for products in very limited supply. That was their problem. On the other hand, the Iranian government imposed a price limit at which these goods could be sold. The two simply did not add up, and this led to the crisis. People were deprived of food. People who are getting very paltry incomes simply do not have money to put food on the table. This is what provoked the protests to begin with. Had there been enough at the time, surely the government in Iran would have shared that enough with people and tried to blunt the protests. Since then, sanctions have become tougher. The war situation has been developing, and scarcities are certain to have increased. And so the situation would have got worse necessarily and not better. So this kind of assurance from the Iranian government that there's enough is something that will have to be tested, and it's a very difficult time for that testing. This is the month of Ramzan, and after a day's fasting, people break their fast at the end of the day after sunset, and whether there will be something for them after a day's fasting on day 1, day 2, day 4, day 10, if this goes on and on, if this shortage continues, and shortages certainly there are, then this itself could do something to provoke unrest among people and to provoke a rebellion, which is exactly what the US and Israel would like to see.
Right. Sanjay, do hold on. Let me also bring in Iranian activist Elaha Jamili, who's in London. Elaha, just help us understand. You were telling us earlier about the situation back in Iran. Have you managed to establish contact with anyone there? Any first-hand report about the kind of situation that people are in at the moment?
At the moment, one of the videos circulating around is a bunch of schoolboys who saw and witnessed the excuse me, explosion, and they are celebrating and they're jumping up and down. But these are high school boys who have seen their own friends be shot to death over the past 2 months. So when one of them shouts out, "I love you, Trump," all the other kids are also pretty excited about this. So while there is a lot of fear and it's a traumatic experience to hear bombs, and I'm sure Iranians are afraid, especially because of the fact that there are no supplies. Just like Sanjay was mentioning, time and time again, there are no food supplies. During the 12-day war in June, within 3 days, food supplies were done in north of Iran. Rice, oil, all the major food supplies were finished. People don't really have anywhere to run to. There is, before the uprising in Iran, when the value of real had not even collapsed to zero at that time, hospitals were low on supplies for medications. The water scarcities meant many hours a day in all the major cities in Iran, there would be no water. Electricity keeps on getting shut off. So all of these lies that the security forces and their high-profile regime members come on so-called Seda and Sima, and they spew lies to people just to make themselves feel better. It's an absolute, it's an empty drum that it has been banging for 47 years. And now they are facing the consequence of that loud, annoying noise, which also targeted only Iranian people. Let us not forget that during the 12-day war, this regime was not happy with the fact that Israel is carrying such surgical actions against their heads of IRGC and staff. Enough casualties from civilians are not rising up, so that the regime went and threw a ballistic missile on the northern area of Tehran called Narmak, killing more than 700 households. So what we are witnessing right now in Iran, as the Iranian people are calling it themselves, is indeed a rescue mission. It's going to be very difficult for Iranian people to fully be rid of this regime, but I'm sure it's not going to be as difficult as seeing hundreds of and thousands of Iranian young people be shot dead in the streets, in the hospitals, in prisons, inside their own homes. The atrocities this regime commits against Iranians first and the rest of the world after has already been witnessed by the world. We know what they are capable of. Iranian people know what they are capable of. And that is why, for the past 2 months, we have gone time and time again across the globe, throughout the diaspora, outside the American embassy, and saying, President Trump, keep your promise.
No, but Eli, the situation that we're seeing currently, how realistic is it for those who want a regime change to hit the streets when the missiles are trained on them and you just don't know where the next missile is going to land? Given that reality, how realistic and in your assessment, if these protesters were to hit the street, how soon could that response come?
So at the moment, the protesters are actually the people of Iran, by the president himself, President Trump himself, have been encouraged to stay at home at the moment. Why? Because there will be missiles, because there will be bombs. And yes, there are no shelters in Iran, so their most safest place for them is their own homes, because their households are not going to be targeted by the Americans. If they are capable of pulling the Operation Black Hammer, Midnight Hammer, in June, they are definite, and the surgical removal of IRGC within buildings. I mean, remember Yahya Sinwar and Ismail Haniyeh. Ismail Haniyeh was in Tehran when only his room in the villa that he was staying at was taken. The regime knows they are they are fully exposed. The regime knows that the American intelligence and the Israeli intelligence know exactly what they have done to our Iranian people. And the regime knows that the consequences of their actions is now meeting them and knocking them on the door. The Iranian people hopefully will not suffer too much from this, not at the hands of the regime and not as a consequence of this war. However, my heart goes out to the Israelis who have to run between shelters every 5 minutes right now because this regime is acting out with its ballistic missiles. The might of the military that is surrounding Iran is not just for the rescue of Iranian people, it is for the rescue of the Middle East and Israel too. And I stand with the people of Israel who are standing with us, who proudly say that they are willing to endure war, they are willing to run to shelters. Mothers who are pregnant are saying, I am willing to run into a shelter with my unborn child if it means Iran is going to be free as the Islamic Republic is throwing missiles at us. So Iranian people stand with the Israeli people. And in this war, we will win against the darkness that is unfolded against the entire Middle East and the international community.
Right. Sanjay, if you're still there, want to come in on that, because you were reporting a short while back of receiving a message to take shelter, and that there could be a threat in that area that you are positioned in. In the last hour, couple of hours, what is it that you can tell us about the situation around you?
Well, we've had 2 alerts here in Tel Aviv since morning, and these are alerts that sound over the public siren system and also over the app which everyone carries, the home app. And this has been an alert advising people to take shelter, because there is information that Iranian missiles are on their way to targeting Tel Aviv. There has been one wave of these missiles launched, and certainly there will be more. So this alert has been issued. It's not an alert that everyone takes very seriously, and not everyone goes to a shelter. And consider that today is Shabbat, it's a holiday here. So a lot of the offices are all closed. The shelters that we could be looking at will be people sheltering in their own homes or in their own neighborhood in their shelters. And there are shelters everywhere, every home, every office, there's a shelter. And so people are there. In public space, the public shelters are not being used very actively for the reason simply that it's a holiday, and it's been an early morning start to the day, start to this war. So people haven't stepped out of their homes even for a day out necessarily, other than to just some places around in the neighborhood as they have over here.
Right, Sanjay, do hold on, because there are reports coming in from across the region. We've getting reports that there was some kind of a explosion. Reuters has reported that sound of another massive explosion was heard in Dubai. We're putting out pictures for you from Abu Dhabi as well. In Abu Dhabi too, a statement has been put out by their Interior Ministry saying that in light of the situation and the development that is happening in that area, Ministry of Interior is closely following regional developments and affirm that it is highest level of readiness. So this is not limited to 2 countries or 3 countries alone. The entire region is currently watching the situation unfold, and there's a lot of apprehension. We'll keep our focus on this story, but slipping into a very quick break. Stay with us. We come back with more news and updates on this big story.
Start, of course, with Shami bhai, because मैंने उनको पहले ही बोल दिया था रेडी रहे. You know, शमी भाई, सबसे ज़्यादा जो सब सुनना चाहेंगे आपसे वो है 2023 वर्ल्ड कप की यादें. बहुत ही रेयरली ऐसा होता है कि कोई वर्ल्ड कप इंडिया ना जीते या कोई टीम ना जीते और फाइनल में जाके उनको हार्ट ब्रेक झेलना पड़े, लेकिन एक प्लेयर की परफॉर्मेंस पूरे देश और पूरी दुनिया को याद रहती है, और वो परफॉर्मेंस थी आपकी इस वर्ल्ड कप में. बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज फॉर मोहम्मद शमी, हु वाज द मैन ऑफ द टूर्नामेंट रियली एज फार एज द 2023 वर्ल्ड कप इज कंसर्न. इंडिया कुडंट विन द टाइटल, बट अब आप उस 2023 वर्ल्ड कप के बारे में सोचते हैं तो क्या सोचते हैं, क्या याद आता है?
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो यार कि सबसे पहले हम लोगों ने जो वो फील किया, वो जो आप लोगों का प्यार दिखा वहाँ पे, और वो जो एक होता है ना कि जज्बा दिखाई देता है लोगों में भी, वो एक अलग पंप करता है हमें एज ए प्लेयर, क्योंकि जब हम ग्राउंड में होते हैं तो क्राउड का सपोर्ट एक नेक्स्ट लेवल ले जाता है हमें. तो वो भी एक अलग लेवल का नज़र आ रहा था 2023 में. जहाँ तक परफॉर्मेंस की सवाल है, कहते हैं ना कि एक ड्रीम होता है कि इंसान ऐसा करना चाहता है क्रिकेट में, या फिर मैं ऐसा बॉल डालना चाहता हूँ, या मैं बॉल से बात करना चाहता हूँ. सो उस तरीके का वो परफॉर्मेंस चल रहा था, क्योंकि हमेशा आईसीसी इवेंट में मैं फर्स्ट मैचेस में मैं रेस्ट पे रहा हूँ हमेशा. मैंने पानी पिला के कंट्रीब्यूट किया है, तो मैं हमेशा वेट करता रहता था कि जब आपका टर्न आएगा, जब आपको मौका मिलेगा, जब आपको टीम को ज़रूरत होगी, आप कितने प्रिपेयर हैं, कितने तैयार हैं उस चीज़ के लिए, आप कितना हंगर हैं आप विकेट लेने के लिए. तो वो मैं हमेशा वेट करता था. लेकिन 2023 वर्ल्ड कप में जो पहली परफॉर्मेंस आई मेरी धर्मशाला में, उसके बाद मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था कि लाइफ में एक मोमेंट आता है ना कि मैं ये ऊंचाइयां छूना चाहता हूँ. मैं बॉल के साथ वो फील कर रहा था, बॉल हाथ में लेके, कि मैं इससे जो चाहे कर सकता हूँ. वाह. तो ये एक टाइम पे आता है, ऐसे बैट्समैन भी आता है कि हाँ हमारा टच ऐसा होता है कि
इन द जोन जिसे कहते हैं।
नहीं, किसी दिन ऐसा होता है कि आप एज ए बैट्समैन भी अगर आप चाहें कि हाँ कि मैं ना मारना चाहूँ लेकिन वो बैट में आके लगती है, तो वैसा ही वो फील चल रहा था। और जो मोमेंटम था टीम का वो आपने देखा ही है, और जो क्रेज पब्लिक में था, जो जो सपने सबको दिखते थे उससे ज़्यादा तो हमें दिखते थे, रात को नींद नहीं आती थी। लेकिन कहते हैं ना नसीब को कोई नहीं बदल सकता, लेकिन मैंने वो बॉल के साथ वो फील किया है, ऐसे लगता था जैसे मैं बात कर रहा हूँ बॉल के साथ और बॉल मेरे हिसाब से चल रही है। तो वो मेरी लाइफ के बेस्ट दिन रहे हैं वर्ल्ड कप के। वर्ल्ड कप मैंने बहुत खेले हैं, लेकिन वो बॉल के साथ जो कनेक्शन बना था वो मुझे ऐसा लगता है लाइफ में कभी नहीं बना।
अमेजिंग, इट वॉज सीरियसली अमेजिंग टू वॉच यू परफॉर्म लाइक दैट। लेकिन जब आप पहले कुछ मैचेस में जब वेट कर रहे थे, जैसे आपने बोला कि पहले 1-2 मैचेस में आपको बेंच पे ही बैठना पड़ता है, तब दिमाग में मतलब बहुत नर्वसनेस थी कि मेरा मौका आएगा नहीं आएगा, कब तक आएगा, जब तक आएगा ऐसा ना हो कि मैं जो ये जोन है मेरा जोन ही निकल जाए जब तक मेरे मैच आएगा।
नहीं, हिस्ट्री उठाकर देखो, सारे वर्ल्ड कप में ऐसे ही हुआ है मेरे साथ। एक शो में मैंने और भी बोला था कि शायद मुझे उसका फल मिलता हो कि आप उतना वेट कर रहे हैं, आप उतना बेसब्री से इंतजार कर रहे हैं कि आप कब खेलेंगे, लेकिन ये पार्ट ऑफ द गेम है। आपकी टीम है, आपकी कंट्री है, आपके लिए।
Iran's worst fears have appeared to be coming true. This as Israel and the United States have launched a major coordinated strike deep inside Iranian territory. Israel has said this was a preemptive strike to remove existential threats. A very good afternoon. You're watching CNN News 18. I'm Akanksha Swaroop. In the latest conflict that's now brewing over Iran, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, and the US President Donald Trump both have asserted in the strongest words that Iran cannot be allowed to have nuclear weapons. Iran is now retaliating, firing ballistic missiles at northern Israel, triggering repeated sirens as Israeli air defenses attempt intercepts. Israel remains under a national emergency with schools, gatherings, and even most workplaces closed. And turning to the Indian angle now, India's embassy in Tel Aviv has issued an urgent advisory saying citizens have been asked to stay alert, follow all instructions from Israeli authorities, avoid non-essential movement, and remain close to the designated shelters. In fact, let's quickly bring you some more perspective. I'm joined in by Nia Gorbani, who's an Iranian activist. I can see Sanjay Suri is also joining us live from Israel. I'm also joined in by Ilai Jamali, who is an Iranian activist. Thank you for joining in. Let me quickly first go across to Sanjay for the latest lowdown. Sanjay, we are being told that an advisory has been issued for all of those Indians. What is the latest status in terms of the evacuation taking place?
Well, at the moment, there's no evacuation underway of Indians in Israel. What we have is a caution, and people are being advised to take shelter and to take precautions. It's at the moment not reached the level of a crisis here in Israel as you have in Iran, and that is where the urgency for evacuation would arise. Of course, in Iran, it's too late for evacuation. But you have a number of Indians here in Israel, a very large number. There are a number of recent migrants from India and particularly from Kerala and one or two other states, and they work in the service sector. A lot of them are caregivers, and a lot of the people in need of constant care are really being looked after by Indians. So that's a very large number of people here. And then, of course, you have a very strong Indian Jewish community, by some estimates about 150,000 at least. They are people who have been living in Israel for a long time, and they are Israeli citizens. So for all of them, the advice remains, as it does for Israelis just about everywhere, that warnings should be taken seriously. There are very precise guidelines in place. People have been familiarized with these for long. They've had training, they've had dry runs for what to do in an emergency. They know exactly what to do. Some people clearly choosing not to do so, and they are outdoors when the advice at the moment is to be inside a shelter. So this is a situation where people will take their own decisions. But bearing in mind that it's a holiday today, people are in their homes anyway, and the attack came early morning Israeli time. And so a lot of people simply did not stir out of their houses into open spaces at all, and they're mostly hiding at home.
Stay with me. Let me quickly go across to Nia Qurbani, Iranian activist, also joining us on the broadcast. Nia, remember, it's a timing which is in fact being also questioned at the moment, given it's the holy month of Ramadan. The Iranian regime is going to ensure that they avenge for such kind of an attack. What is this going to mean, not just for the regime in Iran, but also for the people of Iran, given that this is the second time around an attack of this nature has taken place in less than a year, that too when the negotiations have been on. This is bound to also jettison the overall negotiation process, but what will this mean for the Iranians?
So early morning today, I get a phone call from the Iranian inside Iran, from my family. They called me and said, finally, we get what we want. We get help from President Trump. And we saw actually lots of footage from Tehran. The people actually, the strike actually is going, but the people in streets celebrating the strike, and they are happy. The Iranian people are happy because we don't have any other option. We can't actually fight against Islamic Republic with empty hands. But right now we get help from U.S. and Israeli military. The Iranian people are super happy. They don't care about what's going to be happen. But the final actually results for us, it's the freedom, and we are happy about that. And lots of Iranian people inside Iran, outside Iran, celebrating.
All right, Nia, stay with me. I'm getting in some breaking inputs. In fact, the Israeli media, as we are being told, has currently confirmed that among the attack targets, there is Ayatollah Khamenei and the Iranian President Pezeshkian. This, as Israeli officials also had given a confirmation that they had enough indications that high-profile targets had been hit during the missile strikes that were conducted by the United States and Israel. And in the latest, what we can tell you is that very confirmations also coming out in media reports. Among the attack targets have been Khamenei and the Iranian President Pezeshkian. Let's quickly take this forward with Sanjay. Sanjay, remember the big question is in terms of the whereabouts of the President and, of course, of the Ayatollah as well.
Well, this is no surprise that Khamenei would be a target, the number one target. Pezeshkian would be a target. Top IRGC commanders would be a target. This was known. Clearly, this would be the aim of the US and Israel to target them first. And the latest reports we have suggest that some of these targets have been hit. Now, that is as yet vague. We do not quite know whether as of now that means that Khamenei has been killed or Pezeshkian has been killed. No such confirmation, no such indication as yet. And certainly they would have anticipated these, but there is a level of anticipation you can have and no more, and a level of precaution you can take and no more. Clearly, Mossad has very good intelligence within Iran, as does the CIA, and they would have been tracking the movements and the position of these leaders very closely. Whether that is foolproof, we do not know yet, because the Iranians would have also anticipated this and taken their own steps. They have been targeted, but if it does turn out, as some of these reports appear to suggest, that there has been a successful strike against both Khamenei and Pezeshkian, Khamenei particularly, then that can change the situation at least two different levels. First, it means the loss of the top leadership would mean a loss of confidence in the system, so that there are people within the government who will lose faith in their ability to hold out. Second, it will send a message to people that they really can now revolt and come out and protest and have strength on their side. Right. So these would be the most encouraging steps, that successes that Israel and the US can have, and we are waiting final confirmation that that indeed may have happened. Yes.
Let me quickly go across to Elahe Jamali as well, who continues to stay with us. Elahe, remember just 3 days ago, close to 350 Iranian researchers, academics, also political figures, all of them had signed a joint petition urging for no war, no conflict, because everyone now seems to be of this opinion that war is not going to end the ongoing crisis. It's only going to bring death, destruction, and going to add to the poverty in the country. Do you think that this kind of an intervention, where we are seeing the situation quickly spiral out of control, will be able to bring any respite to the Iranians?
I'm just going to use the 12-day war as an example again. During that operation, Iranian people were faced with the ballistic missiles thrown at the hands of the Islamic Republic's regime in an Iranian estate. 750 households were hit by an Iranian ballistic missile. So I want to know, where were these people when the Iranian people were getting killed in the hospitals? How many letters did they sign during that time? What did they do to make sure that this regime is falling? If they are so worried for Iran and Iranian people, what did they do in order to support the resistance against this regime when Iranian people came out to the streets in their millions? So when the Iranian people from the diaspora and from inside of Iran call out to President Trump to keep his promise, that is the message I'm going to focus on. That is the message I'm going to carry forward. And poverty has already been the curse of this regime in my beautiful country, to the point that Iranians have turned into slaves at the hands of a regime where children have to die in bins. Poverty is already there. Water scarcity, the infrastructure of a country that has fallen into ruins has already been in place under the hands of this regime. This is not war. It's a rescue mission, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. Nayak, we heard what Elahe is saying. She's saying that this is a rescue mission. Do you think any form of foreign aggression can be interpreted as a rescue mission, given that we are seeing what's happened to the economies in countries like Syria, even Egypt and Afghanistan, all of them, Iraq? We've seen the kind of incursions that have taken place at the hands of the United States. Are they great examples to follow as far as the people of Iran are concerned?
Actually, the Iranian are not Iraqi or Afghani, or the Iranian people are not Syrian. The Iranian people have right now their leader, their own. We have actually before U.S. military action. We have a movement in Iran, revolution in Iran, which is led by Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi. And right now he leading the Iranian people right now. He announcing the Iranian people and saying, you have to stay at home and till my announcement come out. The Iranian people are not alone. We have the leader. We have a true leader, which is the Iranian people are trusting him. And the Western leader, they can also trust him and being with him when they want to stand with the Iranian people. I think the final point is, this is an operation for risking the Iranian people, and I hope that's going to be success on the support of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, leadership of Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, and support the Western country.
All right. Let me quickly go back to Sanjay. Sanjay, you know how much the Israelis have in fact borne at the moment. Given the memories of October 7 are still very fresh, we are also seeing the memories of the 12-day conflict that took place between Iran, Israel and the United States. That's also very fresh. But are the Israelis actually prepared for an out-and-out war, one which will involve not just the Middle East, but perhaps greater Western powers? There could be a possibility of a NATO involvement as well.
Well, Israelis are not just prepared for it, that they have been for a while. They've been keen on it. They have been impatient for it. There have been some degree of impatience with what has been seen here as dilly-dallying and delay on the part of Trump, and necessarily tactical and weapon systems had to be put in place before an assault of this kind and of this level. But Israel is very much on board. There are not many people here who are nervous about this war. It's what they've been waiting for. They would have, in fact, on the contrary, felt betrayed and let down had this not happened. That if there had been this build-up of the U.S. forces and this state of preparation from Israel without an assault on Iran, this would have seen an anticlimax and an almost, it would have felt like a historic
Sanjay, I need to slip into a quick break, but I want you to quickly weigh in. There is an Israeli assessment which has just now come in, which says that there's a good chance that Ali Shamkhani, Khamenei's advisor and the one who was responsible for their ongoing nuclear program, is eliminated perhaps. That's the assessment coming in from the IDF, and this is big news indeed. Especially, I see this as an elimination which is perhaps as big as that of Soleimani's elimination. Quickly weigh in on what this could mean for Iran's nuclear program. Sanjay?
Well, for a start, the IDF doesn't put out names lightly. If the IDF has named this person as killed, it's very likely to be a credible report and indeed to have carried out this killing or elimination, as they call it. And this is a very, very top person, very close to Khamenei himself. And the big outcome that Israel certainly will be looking for and the US will be looking for is if they can target Khamenei himself. This is not Khamenei at the moment, but very close to Khamenei at the very top, and certainly very worrying for the regime in Iran.
Absolutely, given that Trump has already made up his mind that he will not have anything but complete obliteration of the nuclear sites in Iran, something that he couldn't manage to do in the June strikes. Will they manage it this time around is the other big question. We will keep bringing you all the live and latest updates. Remember, the situation is quickly spiraling out of control because this is no longer just between Israel and Iran. The US has been involved. These are joint strikes that we are talking about. Iran, of course, has vowed to avenge. They have been hitting all of those bases of the United States, whether it is Qatar, whether it is even, say, the UAE, which has shut down its airspaces. The situation is currently on tenterhooks. We will keep bringing you all the live and latest updates as we slip into a quick break. Stay tuned to CNN News 18.
Start, of course, with Shami bhai, because मैंने उनको पहले ही बोल दिया था रेडी रहे. You know, शमी भाई, सबसे ज़्यादा जो सब सुनना चाहेंगे आपसे वो है 2023 वर्ल्ड कप की यादें. बहुत ही रेयरली ऐसा होता है कि कोई वर्ल्ड कप इंडिया ना जीते या कोई टीम ना जीते और फाइनल में जाके उनको हार्ट ब्रेक झेलना पड़े, लेकिन एक प्लेयर की परफॉर्मेंस पूरे देश और पूरी दुनिया को याद रहती है, और वो परफॉर्मेंस थी आपकी इस वर्ल्ड कप में. बिग राउंड ऑफ अप्लॉज फॉर मोहम्मद शमी, हु वाज द मैन ऑफ द टूर्नामेंट रियली एज फार एज द 2023 वर्ल्ड कप इज कंसर्न. इंडिया कुडंट विन द टाइटल, बट अब आप उस 2023 वर्ल्ड कप के बारे में सोचते हैं तो क्या सोचते हैं, क्या याद आता है?
फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल तो यार कि सबसे पहले हम लोगों ने जो वो फील किया, वो जो आप लोगों का प्यार दिखा वहाँ पे, और वो जो एक होता है ना कि जज्बा दिखाई देता है लोगों में भी, वो एक अलग पंप करता है हमें एज ए प्लेयर, क्योंकि जब हम ग्राउंड में होते हैं तो क्राउड का सपोर्ट एक नेक्स्ट लेवल ले जाता है हमें. तो वो भी एक अलग लेवल का नज़र आ रहा था 2023 में. और जहाँ तक परफॉर्मेंस की सवाल है, कहते हैं ना कि एक ड्रीम होता है कि इंसान ऐसा करना चाहता है क्रिकेट में, या फिर मैं ऐसा बॉल डालना चाहता हूँ, या मैं बॉल से बात करना चाहता हूँ. सो उस तरीके का वो परफॉर्मेंस चल रहा था, क्योंकि हमेशा आईसीसी इवेंट में मैं फर्स्ट मैचेस में मैं रेस्ट पे रहा हूँ. हमेशा मैंने पानी पिला के कंट्रीब्यूट किया है. तो मैं हमेशा वेट करता रहता था कि जब आपका टर्न आएगा, जब आपको मौका मिलेगा, जब आपको टीम को ज़रूरत होगी, आप कितने प्रिपेयर हैं, कितने तैयार हैं उस चीज़ के लिए, आप कितना हंगर हैं आप विकेट लेने के लिए। तो वो मैं हमेशा वेट करता था। लेकिन 2023 वर्ल्ड कप में जो पहली परफॉर्मेंस आई मेरी धर्मशाला में, उसके बाद मुझे ऐसा लग रहा था कि लाइफ में एक मोमेंट आता है ना कि मैं ये ऊंचाइयां छूना चाहता हूँ। मैं बॉल के साथ वो फील कर रहा था, बॉल हाथ में लेके, कि मैं इससे जो चाहे कर सकता हूँ।
वाह।
तो ये एक टाइम पे आता है, ऐसे बैट्समैन भी आता है कि हाँ हमारा टच ऐसा होता है कि
इन द जोन जिसे कहते हैं।
नहीं, किसी दिन ऐसा होता है कि आप एज ए बैट्समैन भी अगर आप चाहें कि हाँ कि मैं ना मारना चाहूँ लेकिन वो बैट में आके लगती है। तो वैसा ही वो फील चल रहा था। और जो मोमेंटम था टीम का वो आपने देखा ही है, और जो क्रेज पब्लिक में था, जो सपने सबको दिखते थे उससे ज़्यादा तो हमें दिखते थे, रात को नींद नहीं आती थी। लेकिन कहते हैं ना नसीब को कोई नहीं बदल सकता, लेकिन मैंने वो बॉल के साथ वो फील किया है, ऐसे लगता था जैसे मैं बात कर रहा हूँ बॉल के साथ और बॉल मेरे हिसाब से चल रही है। तो वो मेरी लाइफ के बेस्ट दिन रहे हैं वर्ल्ड कप के। वर्ल्ड कप मैंने बहुत खेले हैं, लेकिन वो बॉल के साथ जो कनेक्शन बना था वो मुझे ऐसा लगता है लाइफ में कभी नहीं बना।
Amazing. It was seriously amazing to watch you perform like that. लेकिन जब आप पहले कुछ मैचेस में जब वेट कर रहे थे, जैसे आपने बोला कि पहले एक दो मैचेस में आपको बेंच पे ही बैठना पड़ता है, तब दिमाग में मतलब बहुत नर्वसनेस थी कि मेरा मौका आएगा नहीं आएगा, कब तक आएगा, जब तक आएगा ऐसा ना हो कि मैं जो ये जोन है मेरा जोन ही निकल जाए जब तक मेरे मैच आएगा।
नहीं, हिस्ट्री उठाकर देखो, सारे वर्ल्ड कप में ऐसे ही हुआ है मेरे साथ। एक शो में मैंने और भी
Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world.
So this is the big story that is headline across the region. Israel has struck at Iran. There's also a report coming in of similar strikes happening in other areas. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, they've all reported that, there are strikes. Iran has also carried out retaliatory action, but of course all their missiles have been intercepted, even though Israeli population is also on the edge. So that's the situation as it is unfolding. At the time when Trump's deadline was about to end, strikes have happened. Good evening. You are tuned in to CNN News 18. I am Arunima. Like we have been reporting, top focus this Saturday, the Israel-Iran conflict, which is escalating. The headlines. Unprecedented escalation in Middle East as Israel launches Operation Lion Roar, carries out preemptive strikes against Iran. A terror regime can't be allowed to have nuclear power. That's the reaction coming in after US President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed the strike against Iran. Iran retaliates, launches counter-strikes, fires ballistic missiles and drones towards Israel, all intercepted. Israel media reports Iran's supreme leader Khamenei and Iranian president were targeted in the strikes. Iran versus Israel tensions spill across Middle East. Explosions and sirens heard in Qatar, Kuwait, UAE and Bahrain after Iran strikes back all United States military bases. India keeps a close watch. Indian embassy in Tehran issues advisory for citizens. Meanwhile, stranded Indian students sound SOS to Emir. A big story this Saturday. Iran's worst fears appear to be coming true as Israel and the United States launch major coordinated strikes deep inside Iranian territory. Israel says this was a preemptive strike to remove existential threats. Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump both have asserted in the strongest of terms that Iran cannot be allowed to have nuclear weapons. Iran is now retaliating, firing ballistic missiles at not just northern Israel but also US bases in Bahrain, Kuwait and UAE. Israel remains under a national emergency with schools, gatherings and most workplaces closed. And turning to the Indian angle now, India's embassy in Tel Aviv has issued an urgent advisory. Citizens have been asked to stay alert, follow all instructions from Israeli authorities, avoid non